first off, thank you very much for coming on Table Talk. The point of ABFI and Table Talk is really to get in the stories that inspired the family businesses that we see in our communities. And I'm really thrilled that you're here, Teresa Spinelli. You're with the Italian Center. I kind of see it as a bit of an Alberta institution that's really kind of grown from this small local Little Italy storefront into a pretty powerful community enterprise. So for maybe those who don't know much about the Italian Center, can you just quickly introduce yourself and let us know kind of what makes the Italian Center special?
Awesome. I'm Teresa Spinelli. I'm first generation Canadian, and my father started the Italian Center shop 65 years ago.
Wow.
In 1959. He had one store, and it really was a community hub. And then I took over in 2000, and wasn't sure that I wanted to do that. I just ended up there by mistake, really.
Okay.
And as I was figuring out my way, I realized that really it wasn't about selling salami for me. It was really about people. And I thought, how are we going to grow our people? And what Italian Center Shop offers really is community. It really is a gathering place. And we offer community through food and cultural experiences. That's really what we are. The fact that we sell some salami and some coffee on the side, that's a different thing. But really, that's what we are. And so I thought, okay, well, if we're going to grow, how am I going to, once I realized I was going to stay there forever, what were we going to do? So the only way to grow is to open other stores so that our team had an opportunity to grow. So that's how it started.
Nice. Okay. So maybe let's start at the beginning there. You said, so 1959. Tell us, what was it like growing up in the business? Kind of some of those early memories.
Oh, yeah. So I really I grew up in the business. I literally took down my first steps down the pasta aisle. That's really true. I was born there. My mom was a cashier, and I sat on the side of the till while she was cashier, and then she'd give me a bottle and then go back to work, those kind of things. And my brother grew up that way too. I think that's one of the reasons of our success, actually, because people are really connected to me because of that.
Okay.
They really feel, and I feel too, like they feel like they know me really well because they watch me walk down the pasta aisle. They watch me grow up. Then I was cashier. And then too, every week they would come to the store, and their kids were 4, 6, and 8. And then the next year they were 5, 7, and 9, and so on and so on. So I watched their family grow up, and they watched me grow up. So there's a big connection that way.
Yeah, for sure. And doing a little bit of research, I found a bit of a quote that I think relates a lot to some of our other business families and a lot of even my friends in family businesses, where they kind of didn't necessarily go to the family business because they wanted to. They were somehow either forced or, like I think you mentioned, it was an accident. And I know I was talking with a friend the other week where he joined it because he wanted to be closer to his dad.
Oh,
and he didn't have any other way of making that relationship.
Sweet.
So I heard I can't remember where it came from, but a quote that was attributed to you was, "I've never really wanted the business. I just wanted my dad."
Oh, sweet.
And can you maybe share a bit of that emotional, personal journey for you in kind of that connection to family?
Yeah, so, really traditional Italian family. So my brother was supposed to take over the business. That's just the way it was. It was kind of never really said that way, but it was really, that's the way it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Just because he was the boy, really. He was a lot smarter than me too, for sure. He unfortunately died just before his 33rd birthday. And then shortly thereafter, my father was diagnosed with cancer and died a few months after that. So that's how I ended up in the business. And like I said, when I was there, it wasn't something I assumed I was going to do. So really had to do a lot of soul searching. And, I really had to, you make me cry. I had to think about, was I doing this for my dad? Mm-hmm. It wasn't anything I enjoyed. I hated going to work. I hated having to yell at my team to get them to do anything. I didn't like anything about that role. And I thought, wow, am I doing this for my dad? Is that why am I doing this? So I had to do a lot of soul searching. So, I hope that each one of us can say we've lived a life of choice, right? That's so important, right? And that's what I want for my son too. I want him to live a life of choice. But it was a very, very difficult time.
Yeah, I can hear that, and I can only imagine what that would have been like. Trying to go into that place every day that reminded you of your family.
Yes.
But also kind of going on this path that you never really planned or expected for yourself. So in that transition, so when you were kind of going into, stepping into that role as a leader and taking over the shop, I imagine it would have been really difficult with, both that individual connection and process, but also the staff that were there. They would have saw you grow up.
Yes.
And, to go from kind of, this little girl who was always in the pasta aisle.
Yes.
To their boss or their leader. Maybe can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and what that was like for you and what that might have been like for them?
Yes, that was very stressful too, right? My father was very, very much loved. I mean, everybody loved my dad. He was like bigger than life, right? Just great personality. Everybody respected him. I had some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And none of them, including me, thought that I could do it. So it was a very, very difficult time. And you're right. They thought of me as a spoiled brat who used to play cashier. Taking direction from a woman, let alone one that they thought was just a kid, was very, very difficult. And difficult for me too. These are people that I respected, that were part of my life for long. They've been there longer than me, you know? And so every time I made a decision or a change, it was like, oh, your dad wouldn't have done that. Oh, that's a stupid idea. So lots of doubt, lots of soul searching to figure out, because they knew more than me, so I really had to trust what they were saying, right? So it was a lot of debating back and forth. Yeah, it was a very stressful time for sure. Some people left, when I finally figured out that that's what I was going to do, then it was some heart to hearts like, hey, I've decided that I'm staying. This is what my vision is. And some people left. Some people didn't like the direction of the company. Some people didn't like me. And so we split ways.
Yeah, and I guess the plan was always either for your brother or probably not for your father to not be involved as soon as he was.
Right.
So it was that unplanned scenario for sure. Was there, had you had any conversations with the family about what succession would look like or who would take it on from your dad or anything like that?
Like I said, it was always meant to be taken over by my brother. That's the way it was. Unfortunately, my brother had his own demons to battle, but still, and so my dad always stepped back. Like if there was an argument between my brother and I, he wanted us always to resolve it ourselves. And he used to say that, you got to figure it out because you guys have to work together. And I don't think my brother and I would have ever been able to work together just because our visions were very, very different, right? So I always thought, okay, he's going to be the boss and I'm going to go do something else because I saw that our visions were just too different, right? And I was okay with that. That was all good. Yeah, so my dad's way of dealing with that was making us work out our issues and kind of stepping back. But that wasn't good either because we were never able to really work them out. And my dad was always there, so we both knew he was there.
Yeah.
So.
Going back a little bit to kind of taking over that business, when you think about either maybe advice for your younger self or advice for other women that are taking over a business from their parents, or are maybe going into an industry that isn't, that is traditionally male dominated, what would you tell them or what would you tell little Teresa?
I think I'd tell her to really trust your intuition, to really listen to your gut, to follow your heart, like to really follow your heart and see what you want to do. And, any business, as we all know, is very difficult. Yeah, I was very blessed. I inherited a really good business, right? It was good. It was strong. It was very stable. And even that had so many challenges. Yeah. So, if you're prepared to work hard and really be clear about why you're doing it, I think that's really important.
Okay. Yeah, so trusting that intuition and trusting yourself.
Yes.
And maybe that confidence in yourself shows others that you're willing to do it as well. So you mentioned your father was kind of larger than life, and you grew up in the business kind of from the very beginning.
Yep.
You probably started like sweeping floors and helping out wherever. I think I even heard somewhere that your dad even fired you once. Oh
yes, often.
Maybe a couple times.
Often, yeah, often.
What are maybe some memorable lessons that he taught you throughout that process of growing up in the business?
My dad was really an amazing human. He never really worried a lot. Like even if it was a crisis, like if there was something like I remember we were a distributor for Unico Foods at one point. So we sold to all the Safeways in the store. That was a big part of our business. And then Unico decided that they didn't want a distributorship from us anymore. And I must have been like, 20, 22. And I was very worried about that. I went, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. My dad didn't worry. He wasn't a big worry. And I think that's really important in business because if you're a worrier, man, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough road, right? You have to really trust that everything's going to go the way it's going to go. And you can only do the best that you can. And I really learned that from my dad. I really learned that every time there's a problem, there's at least 10 solutions. Okay. And you're going to figure it out. And then every solution causes other problems. So, yeah.
Okay. And I've heard before too that you kind of have a say yes first and then figure it out type approach. And it sounds like that's kind of what your dad taught you as well.
Yes.
Can you kind of share any times maybe that you had to go through that are maybe similar to that Unico Foods one, where you had to kind of say yes and lead first before you knew kind of what the answer was and what that breakthrough or challenge became?
Oh, wow. So many. Usually it's always with people. It's always with people. I can't think of any one thing.
Okay. We'll come back to that and see if anything pops up. So, I think you talked about it a little bit, just about the growth that you've had. So since you took over, it was probably, the one little Italy shop, maybe 20, 30 employees.
Yes, that's right. Very good. Yeah.
Probably, is it 6 locations now?
Five.
And probably 400 or 500 employees.
Yeah, 672.
Wow. Okay. It's amazing that you know that exact number too. It shows a little bit of your leadership as well. One of the things I know from kind of friends and colleagues in the industry is that the diversity of people on staff. So the number of languages and that kind of the diversity in staff and in thought that you have is pretty remarkable. How do you kind of use that diversity to strengthen your business and connect with other communities? And where did that come from?
It kind of just happened naturally, right? So we have a lot of people that work for our company that are husband and wives, a lot of people that are brothers and sisters or aunts and nephews. And like big box stores do not allow you to hire family.
Okay.
We do that a lot. We don't do it on purpose. And we try to make sure that, the wife is not reporting to the husband and those kind of things. We have them separate departments and stuff. But that really so just 2 people got married recently. They both were foreign workers. They came as foreign workers. They got married. They got permanent status, and their wives came, and now their wives work for us, right? So it just kind of happens. I mean, I think they're happy to know that their wife's going to have a position when they come, because imagine if you're an immigrant and you're bringing your wife over and you've got to feed your family. How are you going to do that? So that's been really, really interesting. So I just heard about those 2 yesterday. So that's what comes to mind. Yeah, it just kind of happened. And I think that we are one big family. We're really one big family. And I could tell you hundreds of stories of how that works. Like we had one guy at our South Side store who worked part-time for us. And there was another colleague of his who worked part-time also. And she lost her other job and she was a single mom. So he gave up his hours so she could work. If she came to us, we would have found a way to make it work, but she never came to us. She just told him. Wow. And then he came to us and he said, I'm going to give her my hours, which was amazing. Like we never told him to do that. And it's like when you have 10 kids and you can't feed the 10th one, do you get rid of the 10th one? No, you eat a little bit less so that the 10th one can eat. And we very much do that at the Italian Center Shop. Okay.
So really about taking care of that family and building that culture together. How you mentioned, the Italian or the Little Italy one and some of the other ones are really more of a community hub or a community center. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means to you and what that means?
I think that's what our strength is the fact that we're a community, that we build community. This past summer, I was in Little Italy and I was having an espresso, and this guy that comes in every day, he's a regular, but I don't know who he is. He stood beside me and he said, Teresa, this is a very special place. I said, oh, thank you very much. He said, no. He goes, I've traveled all over the world. This is I said, thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you for your support. And he said, no, he goes, you don't understand. He goes, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed. He said, I'm severely depressed, but I come here because I know when they ask me how I am, they really want to know. And they know that when I walk in, the coffee that I want. And I said, oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. That's very humbling and so awesome. So then I shared that with my team. I said, hey, I just want you to know this guy came here, told me that story. And they started going, oh, is it that guy? Is it that guy? Is it that guy? That tells me there's a lot of lonely people in this world, a lot of lonely people. And even with our team, I see we are their family. They have no other family but us. The only meal they eat is with us at work. It's really amazing the loneliness that we have. And after COVID, it was horrible, right? Like it just made things way worse. And again, I think the fact that people feel welcomed and they feel like they're part of our family is really beautiful. I think that's what makes us successful.
And is that kind of the family culture and how you treat employees like family? Did that come from how your dad ran things as well?
Yeah, for sure. At our Christmas table, every year there's always people that I didn't know. I'd never met them before. And to this day, even at my Christmas table, there's people that we don't know, they work for us but don't have anywhere to go, so that we invite them to share a meal with us, right? Because they don't have any family or haven't connected with friends yet, and so they share a meal with us. So it's the way I grew up. And everybody was always welcome. And, our parents taught us to respect everybody, whether they were a janitor or the president of the company, it didn't matter. And it was always a place to gather and tell stories, and that's what we try to do.
Wow. What kind of, I think for family businesses, a really difficult thing to do as kind of the new leader sometimes is to balance kind of the vision and legacy of the previous generation while also having kind of innovation and new ideas and doing things your own way. Can you talk about how, like, maybe some of those struggles and, probably like bringing in the cafe or the restaurant or prepared foods, and how that kind of was different than what your dad might have done, and how that helped, or how that was hard?
Yeah, really hard. Even after my dad passed away, like even when my dad was alive, I used to tell him that in our deli, there's big long lineups. We need to put a number system in. My dad said, nope. I said, but you need to, because like people are waiting in line, they're getting angry. Nope. So when he passed away, I knew that was one of the things I wanted to do, but I wanted to respect him. So I waited like 2 years before doing that. Wow. Although I knew that that's what I had to do, I really knew that that was what we had to do in order to make it more comfortable for our customers and our team, right? Because our team would get yelled at and stuff. So I did that. And then it just kind of happened naturally, right? Just like somebody would say something and I'd say, oh, that's a good idea. And then I kept hearing it over and over again. And I thought, okay, then let's move that way, right? And again, always, every decision we make at the Italian shop is always about people. Whatever change we're making, we're going to go, how is it going to affect Sally, the cashier? All the time. And that's how we base all our decisions at the Italian Stand Shop. And then we really listen to our members, right? Like our team members, like if they tell us something, they're cutting salami every day. Me in my office, I don't know what it means to use a different slicer, but they'll tell me, hey, you know what? My shoulder hurts because we need a different slicer or whatever, right? So we really, really listen to them.
Nice. So really taking kind of that frontline focus or the heart focus and figuring out how that's going to impact the business and the growth. Absolutely. Nice. Okay. So, I think there's some parallels in kind of some of the stories I've heard about, I think you bring or have brought your own son into work a lot and kind of had him there from an early age. How has that kind of experience, both of you growing up in the business and him growing up in the business, how have that kind of made a family-friendly workplace? Like, has that kind of led by example that's okay? Or
for sure. Yeah, we had, she still works for us actually. So she's been with us 17 years. She used to bring her daughter who, Catholic schools on Thursdays are half days. Okay. And so she didn't have any sitters or anything from her. So she'd bring her daughter to work with her every day. And we made that okay because she didn't have anywhere to put her daughter, and her daughter would stand next to her while didn't infringe her work. She still did her work and her daughter was next to her, right? So we made it okay to do that. And then my son came as a surprise. So I remember once he was still in his little baby chair and I put him on top of the table and I was screaming at somebody because I was letting them go, and it was a horrible, horrible situation. Oh, no. But he was sitting there and I'm yelling at these two guys because I had to let them know how serious this was. And he was just sitting there like giggling, it was very interesting, right? So again, family is really important, right? Would we let everybody bring their kid to work? No. I mean, there has to be like a situation where we've done that a lot, actually, a lot. I even think about kids that were packing while their mom was working because they didn't have any school and they didn't have any childcare for them. So yeah, we've done that a lot, I have to say.
Nice. And how do you see his relationship with the family business, and what lessons do you hope he takes from kind of your leadership and how you're growing and building the business?
I think he's really young. He's only 17, but he really gets the whole family connection thing, and he really gets that people are important. He really gets that part. So that's really good. He also really gets his role in life. So we live in the inner city. And so the first few years he went to an inner city school. So at that school, we were probably one of the wealthiest families there. They're all immigrants and stuff. He's one of 5 white kids in that school. Beautiful, beautiful school. Mm-hmm. And, I'd say to him, well, did you tell your friends that we're going to go see Justin Bieber? And he'd say, I'm not going to tell them that. They're not going to be able to go to Justin Bieber. That's not nice. Did you tell them we're going to Hawaii for Christmas? They're never going to go to Hawaii. I'm not going to share that with them, So I saw that I couldn't keep him in that school because he wasn't able to share the way we live, right? Because it was very different. So we went from that school to being the poorest family in a different school, a different area of Edmonton, right? So again, we go to Italy every year, but they go on African safaris. So that was good because he gets to learn where we are in life, right? And how we are all the same. We had all the same issues that he had with his friends in the inner city, same issues with his friends in a wealthier neighborhood, right? So he understands about people really well, and he's very intuitive about people. So that's really good because I think that's a big part of business too, is being able to understand people.
Yeah. And do you think he got that from being around the business and maybe seeing that customer service focus? And is that maybe where some of that emotional intelligence came from? And I know that's a hard question.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the way we live our lives. It's just, he sees it every day, right? Yeah. He sees just the way we live our lives.
Awesome. What's been maybe some of the bigger challenges or learning moments in balancing family and business? So kind of in the growth of your son and your family to the growth of the business as well.
Yeah, really hard. So my son showed up right after we opened up the second store, and that was really hard. Again, he came as a surprise, so wasn't planning to have a family, and here he was. And I tried to work from home, right? Tried really hard to work from home, but impossible. Like I'd feed the baby, do the deposit, change the diaper, do the payroll. It was like crazy. Yeah. So I said to I was like working 20 hours a day, and I said to my husband, I can't do this. And so my husband became the stay-at-home dad, and that really worked. Sorry, what was your question?
Just about balancing family.
Oh yeah,
and business.
balancing. So really hard to balance family. So he did come to work with me for the first 3-4 months for sure. And then my husband kind of took over. He was a very good baby, so he wasn't a big problem. And I'm sorry, I forgot the question again.
So just on how do you balance?
Balance. Yeah. So I don't think balance really exists. Sometimes I work too hard and sometimes I play too hard, right? For me, as he grew up, if I couldn't put him to bed that night because I was at a meeting or whatever, I wanted to take him to school the next morning. That was my balance. Everybody has to find their own, but I don't think there's a perfect balance. I've never missed one of my kids' soccer games or hockey games or anything. I've never ever missed a birthday party or a family birthday for that matter. My business has never suffered because of it, right? And I think he gets that too. He gets that family's really important.
Okay, so it's kind of that balance is a misnomer, but it's more about kind of seeking satisfaction in both of them, maybe?
Everybody's different, right? Whatever works for you, for sure.
Okay. How are you thinking about the future of the business and succession planning today?
Yeah, so interesting. We're hoping to still grow. We're hoping to put another 2, maybe 3 stores in Calgary. We were working on Saskatoon, but that unfortunately fell through just last week. Because I really think that whatever Italian Center Shop has, that X factor is really good for any community. I think people really gravitate towards that. So as we grow, that's the challenge, is how do you still keep that family feel and that community feel as you grow, right? So that's really important to us. So we're going to grow for sure. As far as succession planning, I have a really good team. I have like a mastermind team that does a lot of the work with me. We make decisions together. So they're in the know. So if I, God forbid, get hit by a bus tomorrow, the business would still run. Yep. I do have one of my main guys who would take over. Yep. So yeah.
Nice. And I wasn't planning on asking this, but does your son like work in the business today? Does he see he's going to in the future, or does he have his own path picked?
Oh no, he wants my job.
He's coming for your job?
Yep, he wants my job. Ever since he was little, very little. I saw an old employee in Calgary, and he told me that he used to be in Edmonton. He said he remembers being a cashier. My son was 4 with a little car. And he said to me, he said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I'm going to be your boss. At 4. It's a big thing for him. But I tell him he's got to graduate from university. He has to get a degree. He has to go work for somebody else for a couple of years, and then he can come to the Italian Center Shop. That's been a struggle, just getting through school. But that's my hope for him, right? Because I think that he would do well, but he's got to work for it, right? He's got to work for it. Yeah,
and that whole idea of like an externship and making sure that they get experience someplace else is so valuable. And
agreed.
And definitely a common theme in the family business world. I know some of the other ones I've seen that are quite neat. It sounds like you're planning something similar. Is they have to go and work for another business.
Yes.
For at least 2 years.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And have a promotion.
Oh wow.
And so it's like, unless you do both of those, you can't come into the business. And just an interesting metric and way to manage it that is fascinating.
It is fascinating and hard, very hard to do. As a parent, it's hard to do.
Yeah, one probably as a kid too.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. You touched a little bit on the future of looking at more stores and things like that. But what else do you see as the vision for the Italian Center Shop, and what are kind of some of the principles that you hope to take its growth forward with?
Like I mentioned, we just always continue to hope that we are a gathering place and a community hub for sure, that we still bring in the best known European products. It really is amazing, so for example, we sell lots of Polish chocolates, like tons and tons all year round. And so I love chocolate. I tried it. So I'd ask people, when they buy it, why are you buying this chocolate? So good. I go, no, it's not so good. Why are you buying it? Is it the price point? Is it the color? And every story was the same. This chocolate bar had 8 squares. We were a poor family. My mother would give us 1 square each. I used to make this soup with my grandma. She would sing to me when she made it for me. It was always about that warmth and that family and that connection. And we hope anyone little while ago, there was a family that had traveled to Brazil together on a holiday. They weren't Brazilian, and they saw some Brazilian drink that we carry, and they got all excited because it reminded them of that holiday together, of that connection and the good times that they had, right? So I think that that's really special because, food is involved, whether there's a death or whether there's a birth or whether there's a wedding. It's always about food. So I hope that we still continue to do that, to let people know that sitting around the table is where families bond. It's where memories are made, even where business is done, right? So that's what we hope to create.
Yeah, I'm often surprised by kind of the diversity of the products. And, I know people, grew up with some people who are Polish and they're like, we always go to the Italian Center because they have these products.
Yes.
So it almost caters to a large degree of kind of European and even other cultures. I know for me and my family, oddly, we go there a lot for gluten-free products.
Oh, fantastic.
And we just see, the types of gluten-free products that you bring in are actually very unique and
they're good
and exciting for my daughter who's celiac.
Good.
So it's a really neat thing for us to kind of rediscover it that way. Maybe a bit of an odd question on leading in from that. What are some of your favorite products that you carry?
Oh, so many. I don't know where to start. There's just so many. I mean, I have one in every category for sure. There's so many. Right now, we started a line of take home and warm up food. Like it's a Massimo's line, which is my son, because as he was growing up, I forget to take things out of the freezer. I do, and I get home and I'm exhausted and I don't really want to cook something healthy. This stuff we make every day in our commissary kitchen. You can read all the ingredients on it. Simple things like chicken cutlets or pasta. And I really like this pasta that we just made with mafalda and sun-dried tomatoes and chicken. It's very, very good. So it's one of my favorites right now. I think I've ate it 3 times this week. But yeah, simple things. If it's simple to make, then it just makes life easier. And a lot of our products are very simple to make. So that's good, yeah.
Yes, so kind of some of the pre-made ones. And I was going to ask about Massimo's as well, because I was wondering about kind of the connection with the name there.
That's my son's name.
Okay, neat.
Yeah.
And is that kind of that next to the south location? Is that the
That's
commissary?
Right, that's the commissary.
That's the
very good.
Commissary kitchen now?
Very good, yes, very good, yeah.
Cool. So when you look at kind of where, if you want people to learn about the Italian Center, or for people who had never been there before, what types of messages or what do you want them to hear about it?
I think once you've come into our store, we know that you're going to come back because our team really connects with you. Like if you're a regular, my cashier knows your name. They know whether you have a sick kid at home. They're really, really connected to our customers. And again, we don't tell them that. We don't say, hey, when you got it. We never share any of that. Or the guy in the deli starts to sing O Sole Mio just because, we don't tell them to do that. It's just a really great place to be. And so we know that once you come into our store, you'll come back. I just think people always say it's their favorite store. It's not the cheapest store. It's not the most elegant store. It's their favorite store. They just love to be around there. So that's a big, big compliment to us.
And how do you balance kind of some of the new locations with with the original location? Because they are very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all very different and they all have their own vibe. So that was our biggest concern, right? Even when we opened our second one, I was like, wow, how do we bring Little Italy that's old and been here forever? And even the people that sit there in our cafe in Little Italy are old and been there forever. How do we create that on the south side? But they kind of have their own spin, Still community is at the core of it. All of them are really community focused. And our customers are in touch with everybody. The south side girl would actually... Once I went to the Southside store and I stood in line because there was a long lineup for the coffee shop, so I didn't want to butt in. Mm-hmm. And I got to the front and I said to her, can I have an espresso, please? She said, $1.75, ma'am. I said, no. I go, I'm Teresa Spinelli. She goes, $1.75, ma'am. I had no idea who I was, right? I'm pointing to my picture, and then the person behind me vouched for me, so that was good.
Okay, but so you didn't have to pay.
Yeah, well, usually I don't pay for my coffee, but she did. She didn't know who I was. I should have given that girl a raise, actually. But anyways, we really... They really are all different, all very, very different. I just came back from my Calgary store, which is really amazing. Mm-hmm. And again, different, but that community feel, that warmth is really there.
Nice. And what do you see as kind of new in the industry and for your stores? Like, how are you looking at things like innovation and technology and e-commerce and other buzzwords like that?
Yeah. So we've done a lot of things. We've gone paperless, which is pretty amazing. for me, it's amazing. Anyway, that's pretty amazing. So we've introduced a lot of technological advances that help us as a company. And again, wasn't me because I don't know anything about that stuff. I got a really, really amazing team. So that's been a big change for us and really helped us along the way. AI is always in our minds, and we always try to look for things that can help us. We're not sure that we're there yet, but we're always open to listening, and we go to podcasts and webinars and stuff like that to learn more about it, for sure. But I think the biggest change has been IT stuff, like making things easier, processes more seamless, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so really looking at where you can make things more efficient.
Yes.
And almost kind of going back to the bringing in numbers, where it's about adding that structure for both your customers, but also for your staff and your family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. When you look at, so you mentioned learning and looking at some of those other methods for webinars and podcasts and things like that. When you think specifically about family business and when you were taking over the business, is there anything that kind of stands out as lessons or places you went to or things you wanted to learn when you were doing that?
I did go to the Alberta Business Family Institute. I have to say I did. And I've been to some of their events for sure. Did that, read a lot of books on that kind of stuff. I didn't even have a son then. So it was so interesting, but I still thought about my team as my family.
Okay.
Those 30 employees were and still are my family. My 672 employees are my family. So even when I was thinking about succession planning when I didn't have my son, thinking, wow, I have to treat it as if they're all my family.
Yeah.
So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, they're my family. How am I going to distribute this? How's it going to look? Where's it going to go to? So it's very, very interesting. So yeah, a lot of reading. Things like this really help. The Alberta Business Family Institute help because, there's checklists and there's other people that have gone through it before. And I've met other people that have businesses and then they'll mention a book and bring it to me usually. So that's really good. Yeah, just kind of those things, always listening and learning from other people.
Nice. And that wasn't a plant to promote us, but I do appreciate that.
No, that's really true. That's really true.
Okay. Is there kind of one, and I like to ask this to just about everyone on the podcast, is there kind of one main book or thing that you've read that really, if you were to give someone as, here's a business book or here's a fun book you need to read to make you a better human? What would you point them towards?
Human.
I like to say that instead of a
better
business person or like
better human. Well, I like the book From Good to Great. That made a big difference in our life, for sure, my life. Better human. Oh, there's so many books out there about leadership, right? I think you have to figure out what kind of leader you want to be. I very much want to be a bottom-up company. So it took a long, because my dad was, again, an amazing human. My dad was the boss. It was his way or the highway kind of guy, right? I was very opposite. So turning that around, because, culture lives in the walls of a business, right? So turning that around was very, very difficult. I can't think of a book. Danny Meyer's book, A Seat at the Table. That was a really, really good book. That was really about including your team and considering them. Not that they are an asset, they're your only asset, especially in the restaurant business. So things like that.
Nice. How do you think, and I hesitated with this question, but how do you think your dad would feel about the growth and success and changes and innovation that you've done with the business?
I don't know, I people always say, oh, your dad be so proud of you. I don't know, he'd say, weren't you good with one store? Well, why'd you have to do all that? And my mom was not impressed at all. My mom was not impressed that I had more stores. She just knew that was more stress, and she didn't think that was a good way to live your life, right? So again, very, very different. And I didn't do it for my dad. That for sure I know. I really did it for my team. I really did. And me, that's what I love to do. Even when I start thinking about other stores, I get excited. I think, okay, let's do this. Or growing a certain department. I'm excited about that. That's what makes me tick. And people, it's just giving people the opportunities. And again, I could tell you hundreds of stories. We had a cashier who was really shy and she didn't talk very much. And then all of a sudden she worked in the HR department, just filing. And all of a sudden she's doing a speech in front of 16 people, presenting something. This shy little girl, she really grew up. And they're really appreciative of that. They really understand that they grew up in the company. They really understand the opportunities that we gave them that they might not have gotten anywhere else.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the beginning that you used to hate going into work.
Ugh.
And then you just mentioned about how that's like you love going to work and you have that excitement about building new things. When did that switch flip? How did that flip?
I think when I first started and I took over the store, and like I said, I really hated going to work, and I did lots of soul searching. I really did say, am I doing this for my dad?
Yep.
Why am I doing this? What did I want? Where did I want to be? What did I want for my family and I? And once I got clear about those things, then it just became easier. And then when I realized that it wasn't about selling salami, that it was about people, then I focused on the people part. And that's how we grew.
Cool. Okay, excellent. Well, this has been an amazing conversation.
Well, thank you. You did your homework very,
Thank
very
you.
good.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy your energy, and I like how a lot of those messages around, both finding your own identity within the family business and looking at, kind of strategy and different tools and automation to grow the business, and also really thinking about how you define a family business is really up to you.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
And it can change. So, in the early days, it might have been, you and your nuclear family with your mom and your dad and your brother. Today, it's you and your son, and, that nuclear family that around that, but also it's all of those employees that are with you, which I think is a very powerful message and probably makes that a pretty special place for those employees to work.
Yeah, for sure. And also another thing that I want to mention in family businesses. So my husband, I got married late in life. I was 37 years old. So he came into this family business, and again, very different dynamics. He doesn't know anything about family business. He doesn't know anything about time, family, all that stuff. So lots of culture shock and stuff. But that's a really important part too, right? Because if you bring an outsider into a family business, that's really hard.
Yeah.
He doesn't work for the, we tried that, didn't work. And again, it works lots of times, but you got to find those right things. But that's a really important part, because if you don't have support from your spouse, your partner, it's going to be really hard. And it usually doesn't work. Yeah. Because it causes lots of tensions, and and even with my husband, my husband's a great guy, and if I came home with a problem, he wanted to fix it. But if I didn't take his suggestion, he'd get really mad. Yeah. And I thought, oh my God, so I thought, okay, then I can't tell him about this because now he's going to want to fix it, and if I don't take he gets mad at me. So it was really important to find a group of people that I could work with, that we can share, that were business owners, because business owners think differently than husbands, wives, and employees, right? They just think differently. So that's really important too, to get that kind of support.
Yeah, to have that network and that community to be able to share and grow.
Yes, absolutely.
I know with my own partner, I've had to think of okay, when she's asking me this or telling me this about her day, is she looking for a solution or is she just getting it off of her chest?
Good for you. You're a good husband. Good job. Good job. Good job.
Okay, excellent. So really just to kind of bring things together, definitely enjoyed the story and the themes, how that ever kind of brought back to the transition and the growth you've seen, and then how you've developed yourself as a leader and how you've built the leaders around you, and just really how you've built a pretty amazing community around all of the stores that you run, and all of the people that you've helped as employees and your family members over the year. So, could you maybe, to close things off, could you let people know if they wanted to learn about the Italian Center, where do they go? If they wanted to find that, Ukrainian chocolate or Polish chocolate, where do they go? And then how can people get a hold of you if they want to ask you something? For
sure. So I'm easy to get a hold of. My email is on our website, www.italiancenter.ca. So you can find a lot of information on there. And then we have all our emails on there, including mine. You can walk into any store and ask a cashier how to get a hold of me. They'll give you my business card. Pretty easy to get a hold of. Just walk into one of our stores and ask whatever question you have, and somebody will know the answer. If they don't, they'll find someone that does. If you're at a deli, they'll let you taste lots of different things. Usually we've got demos of something that's new. Yep. So that's a great way to learn about different products. And if you don't see something you want, ask, because if we don't have it, we'll get it for you.
Nice. Yeah. And I know I asked you your favorite product. My favorite product is the truffle cheese.
Oh, the Moliterno?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I keep on.
Good.
If I'm even close to an Italian center, I'm like, oh, I need that cheese.
That's very addictive too. Very addictive.
I was like, oh, I bought too much this time.
Yes.
I never have bought too much.
For sure. Now it's fresh. It's fresh season for fresh truffles.
Yes.
So we fly in fresh truffles from Italy, black and white. And they're very, very expensive, but people buy them.
Yeah, no, and truffles are amazing.
Yeah,
it's
good.
One of my
Very
weaknesses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, not a place to end the podcast, but I wanted to share that as kind of a personal piece. But again, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
This series is proudly produced by the team at Road 55. Road 55 creates content that connects. For more information, visit our website at road55.ca.